Hi, this is Joy at Pine Quilt Shop. Today I want to show you a fun machine applique technique that will let you create applique blocks like this flower block that look like they were done by hand stitched needle turn applique, though you have done them entirely by your sewing machine. So you're going to start out with an applique shape that you have prepped with stabilizer so that it actually has a turned edge. And if you didn't catch our YouTube video on that technique, you can find it on our YouTube channel. But you definitely need to have a nice turned edge shape that you're working with. And what's key for this technique is to find a stitch that takes a couple stitches along straight, that would be right at the side of your applique, and then it does a little jog in. So this is a default blind hem stitch. All sewing machines pretty much will have a blind hem stitch, and it can be used for this technique if you shorten the length. You want those jogs in to be about 1/8 of an inch long, and you want them to be 1/4 inch or just slightly more than 1/4 of an inch apart. Now, a lot of machines will have what they call a quilting applique stitch, and that's what I normally use on my Brother machine, and it is similar to that blind hem stitch where it takes 4 straight stitches along the side and then it just does a straight jog over. And I can adjust both the length and the width on this stitch. I also have a type of blanket stitch on my machine that would work, but it just takes 1 big stitch along the edge and then it does a little tacking stitch in. You would not want to use a blanket stitch though that makes 3 stitches here where it goes forward, back, and forward again, because you don't want to be building that much thread up at the side if you want to get that look of needle turned hand stitch applique. So the normal stitch settings that I use on my machine with that quilting applique stitch is a width of 1.5 millimeters, a length of 1.6, and I reduce my tension to 2. Now, default tension on my machine is 4, and I half it. It's critical with these stitches that you reduce your tension because they have a tendency just by nature of the stitch to pull bobbin thread. So you want to reduce your tension. What I normally will set my machine up is monofilament on the top, and I will match my bobbin thread up to the background fabric. So typically for stitching on this solid white fabric, I would have white in the bobbin and I would have monofilament thread on the top. Now, I started out with my machine loaded up with red on both the top and the bottom because I wanted you guys to be able to see my stitches. So here you can see the 4 little stitches down the side, the little jog in, 4 little stitches, little jog in. I'm going to flip this over so you can see it from the back because it's a little easier to see. You can see the tail there of my monofilament thread when I cut off for the next section, but there is the red for this section, and you can see what that stitch looks like very easily from the back. So that was done so that it was visible to you. The next section is actually stitched. Right here, it's stitched. Doesn't look like it's stitched, but it's stitched. It's stitched between here and here. I can pull on it, it's not going to come up. This is the section where I switched to my normal thread setup. So I have white in the bobbin because I have a white background, and I have actually a smoke monofilament on the top. And look at how in that section you don't even see the stitches. I'll flip it over again. When you're looking at the back, you can see the stitches, you can see that white thread, you can see a little bit of monofilament that pulled to the back side when I cut off. But you get what looks like a hand stitched applique shape without having to do it by hand. You'll end up with beautiful blocks like this that look like they were done needle turn applique, hand stitched down, and it is all done on your sewing machine. So definitely do some checking, see if you can find a good stitch. Always make sure when you're doing applique that you're switching to an open-toed foot so that it's easy for you to see where you're stitching. That's a key thing. And check out your stitch options and see what option you can find that gives you a stitch like this and that you can experiment with this fun technique. It kind of gives you a mock needle turn applique style block, and definitely give it a try. and see how it works for you. It gives you a really, really fun, different look to your machine applique. Thanks for joining us today.